Hello, everyone. My name's Titus Fortner. I'm a developer advocate at Sauce Labs and one of the authors of Selenium. So I'm here with Jesslyn Yeen from Google. She's a DevRel at Google to talk about Chrome DevTools and Sauce Labs extension that lets you run those on Sauce Labs. And we'll also go over just how to do some work with the DevTools in Sauce Labs itself. So I am going to turn it over to Jesslyn now.
Okay, hi everyone. Let me just share my screen first. Guess you can see my screen now. I can see. Okay, so my name is Jesslyn. I'm DevRel in the Chrome DevTools team. So if you might find my face familiar, so if you are using DevTools, and if you do not close the What's New tab in the DevTools, you click on one of the link, you might have seen my videos or my articles that telling you what are the new stuff, cool stuff in DevTools that you can improve your debugging experience. So our team working on debugging and testing. So for example, DevTools, Puppeteer, Chrome driver, and WebDriver by Dice fall under my team. Yeah. So this is my hobby. I also like scuba diving. These are some of the photos that I took underwaters. Yeah. Okay, cool. So testing is a pain, especially like end-to-end testing. If you want to like automate the user flow, it's not that easy because it takes a lot of amount of setup in order to do so. So then our team thinking like, how can we save time in manual testing? That's why we create the DevTools Recorder to help you record, replay, and measure user flow. We have done this. We have done the sessions with Sauce Lab before to introduce you the DevTools Recorder. But a quick refresh. It's currently in developer preview, so it's experimental features. Let's jump into the demo. Okay, so a quick recap to create a new recording, you just need to click on the create a new recording button, and then you can give the recording a name or just leave it as the default, and you can just start the recording. You can click on coffee, click on check out the card, add the name, fill in the form, and check the checkbox and submit it. So you can see that every step is captured by the recorder. And from one of the new features that we have added in recently is the add assertion function. So if you add the assertion, you can say that you want to wait for a certain element. For example, you want to check whether this page have so for example, you want to verify that if there is a nice coffee appear on the page. So what you can do is you can change the selector to .cup, because I know that is the cup body. This is the CSS selector that I use. And what I can do here, I can say that I want to add count. I want to make sure that there is a nice coffee showing up on the screen, and then I can stop the recording. You can add the assertion or any step after you finish your recording as well. You can also remove a step if you mistakenly add a step. Okay, so after that, you can replay the recording in whatever speed you want. So there's a slow speed, very slow speed, and extremely slow speed. And did you realize there's an extension called Sauce Lab here? Later on, Titus will share with you what is that about. So I want to share a few more like features that we recently add in the Chrome DevTools Recorder. So from here, what you can see that we added a new button here called Show Code. So if you click open it, this is where you can see the code line section by section. And for example, if you install some extension, so if you click download, you can go to this get extension button. If you click on it, you can get a list of extension that the DevTools support. So there's this Nightwatch extension, Cypress extension, WebDriver IO extensions to help you convert your user flow into the test script, into the programming language that you are using. So for example, I have installed the Cypress extension. If I click on that, you can see that if you hover over each of the steps, it will highlight to you each of the steps in the Cypress test script. That's very convenient. So what you can do is you can either export it or just select or copy it. Or if you want to just copy the code for a particular step, you can either copy and highlight the whole line, or you can click on this 3-dot menu, or right click on the step and say you want to copy as Cypress test. Copy here. And you can paste it into your code, and that's paste it into your Cypress script to make it easier to run. Okay, so there's one type of extension. There is the other type of extension which I will have Titus to share about it and talk about what is the new stuff in the other extension in DevTools.
All right, so what I wanted to talk about is the Sauce Labs replay extension. So I've got this loaded up on my Chrome, and I'm going to Selenium here. So when I pull up the DevTools inspector here, and we go to Recorder, if I were to create a new recording, and I start that recording, I can now essentially I'm just navigating through some things here. Nothing special with that. Oh, I need to actually end recording. So here we go. It's showing the different things that we've done. And now we've got this button over here, Sauce Labs. I have to enter see if I properly saved that. Looks like I did. Nope, I did not. Well, so you have to enter your Sauce username and access key here. Click submit. And now I can pick a different operating system. And this recording that I just recorded is going to run. And once it starts up a new virtual machine and has a session ready, it's going to tell me what that is. Yeah, and I just click on this link. And it's going to take me to this. Okay, so it's already finished, and it just walks through exactly what I just did. It's only 8 seconds long here, right? We're just loading it. I'm clicking through some things. It went really fast because that's how it does it. And you can step by step through each of the actions here on Sauce Labs to see exactly what was sent. You can see what the JSON is here. Another cool thing with this, though, is I can upload the file. So Jessalyn just did this order of coffee. I can take what she did and play that on Sauce Labs. And here we go. So this is it live because it hasn't finished yet. So we're going to see step by step what it's doing. And then as soon as it's done, it's going to send us back to the command video page here. We can see the same thing. And you get all the screenshots. You get the video, you get the logs, you can download all of these things. So this is just a way to make sure that what you're seeing makes sense in the context of a different operating system. There are use cases where you'll get a bug report from a specific operating system and just want to double check that there's not something weird that's happened. You can do a quick, but you don't have that operating system. You can do a quick record and then upload and see if you can reproduce that problem. So while I'm here, I'm going to go to the live testing section here. So cross-browser, when we're doing this here, saucedemo.com. Actually, let me do desktop, saucedemo.com. I'm going to do Chrome. I'm going to pick a Chrome version. We're going to do this on Windows 10, whatever resolution here. I'll start this test. So this is a way essentially to do manual testing on Sauce Labs with any browser that you want. One of the things that you've always been able to do here is see the DevTools. So you've always had access in Sauce Labs in live testing to be able to access this in real time. So let me go ahead and end this. Start a new test. What's interesting now is on real devices, on a real device farm, we can now grab a Pixel 2. Again, it's going to go to saucedemo.com. This used to take a really long time to load up with DevTools, and it's much faster now. But we click on this, and there we go. We have DevTools here as well. You have the same interface here that you would have on your local machine that you can now access on from essentially any operating system. You'll be able to see this. And then the other fun new thing that we have at Sauce Labs right now is your cross-browser, mobile, real, iPhone. Let's grab this iPhone 11. And so this is the Safari Web Inspector. We also have access to this now. So all of the real devices, all of the desktop browser interfaces, you can now interact with the DevTools console when doing manual testing on Sauce Labs right now, which is pretty exciting when this loads. It was much faster yesterday. It always is. All right, it just doesn't like the iPhone right now. We'll just close out of that. What's that?
Europe, because I think you are accessing the US zone.
Oh yeah, I am in US West. All my stuff is in US West. I could. You're right, I could. I can't switch to EU. We've got different data centers here. I can do a live test in the EU with a mobile app. Wait, nope, let's do cross-browser, mobile, real, saucedemo.com. Let's do an iPhone or an iPhone. Start the test, see if this gets me something. These are all the public devices, and so our public devices often can see a lot of use. Here we go. That's loaded, and now I can click on DevTools, and here we are. Now I can see the DevTools, and this is always interesting. I just did I just released a video on our YouTube channel for this, but it lets you delete things that you don't want, or login box here, form. Let me move one thing above another, so now passwords above username, right? Like you have the ability to sit in here and change things on the fly and see if one thing looks better than another, or change what class, change the look, and you can see exactly what it looks like in the specific phone or desktop browser instance for whatever operating system. So a lot of power to see exactly what's going on in all of the different platforms that you do not have, because very few of us have all of the platforms. So oh yeah, if there's a question, let's.
Can you do a real device iPhone and demonstrate how to find and
find an element's XPath with an oh, I see what you're saying. Well, that's Web Inspector. So I bring Jesselyn up, but that would be kind of rude. Talk about your competition, right? Okay, let's see here. iPhone. Thank you for the suggestion about the EU data center, because that is faster than going to the US West at this point. All right. So in general, I'm a much bigger fan of using CSS instead of XPath, but you can believe this will let you copy XPath here. The problem with copying this XPath is it's going to be really ugly. It almost always goes from, oh, this isn't too bad because it gives the ID, but this is always going in a very full path approach. And the problem with that is if anything in the DOM changes, the selector is going to go bad. And so it's, you really want to be careful about what you're doing here. Now, this is a demo page, and so there's a lot of ways to access this. Like, let's see here. So for instance, when we copy this XPath and we paste it, there we go. So it's showing the username. So this is not a bad, when you're dealing with these specific ones that have usernames or have data-test tags, any of these things that are relatively unique, this is not a bad locator. But Selenium specifically has find by ID or find by CSS, and I have found CSS to be more readable and easier to work with. Most front end devs that you find know what CSS is and know what CSS selectors are. Very few people know what XPath is unless they muck around with XML files, which isn't especially healthy. So, all right, that answer the question about digging in and seeing what the elements are here and being able to figure out the locators. Again, this is the web inspector for Safari, is what this is showing on the iPhone. Any other questions? We have two more. All right.
Kenneth is also asking the same question. In the menu bar, the circle with the crosshairs, how do you use it to select the element?
You say that again?
In the menu bar, the circles with the crosshairs, how do you use it to select the element?
In the menu bar, let's see here. Are you talking about in the menu bar crosshairs? I don't know what were the crosshairs. Was that in the test? Is that one of the live tests we were doing?
And the second question is, how is SourceCTL different from other mobile testing tools available in the market?
All right. So I'm not sure what the crosshairs question is. If I could get more clarification on that, I can probably be more helpful. Was that like in the iPhone or something that had a crosshair and I wasn't paying attention? All right. The question is, how is SourceLab's mobile solution better? How is it different? I guess now that I'm in, now that I've moved to the dev advocacy role, these are things I should know better than when I'm just helping customers with our solution. I just got to move from the tech services team, where I did a lot of working with customers on our solution. There are a number of things that our solution does really well. I really like the the different ways we automate things. We have a really great platform configurator here that makes it really easy for anything that you're working with. Essentially, anything that you're looking to do, you can select this, whatever platform, whatever language. We're going to use an app. It's going to, oh, I don't have any apps in EU. If I go to US, I can go to the platform configurator. This is just very powerful to give exactly the code that you need to use, which makes it very convenient. We have a lot of, we've got new things in our mobile testing for device crash information and things to give you more diagnostic insight. Virtual USB allows to do some interesting things with authentication and other tooling ideas. At this point, I'm just going to be listing our documentation page, so I will leave it at that. Do you want to switch over? All right.
Okay, let me share. Okay, in the call now. So let me share a little bit further on the probably first on the selector. So if you are using so just now I think the question is asking selector in the web inspector, but I want to introduce you a features in the recorder as well regarding to the selector. So if you so this is the recording that we have just now. So if you expand the step, you can see that DevTools automatically detect 5 types of selector, which is one is the ARIA selector for accessibility if you have label and stuff. The other type of selector is the CSS selector. By default, DevTools will pick up data-test or data-test ID, data-cy. These are a few famous popular selector that people use, or the CSS class or ID if we can detect it. The third type is the XPath. The fourth type is the Pierce selector, which means that if your element is within the shadow DOM, this selector can pierce through it and select the element in the shadow DOM in order to help you to do to pick the element and continue your testing. The last type is the text selector, which we detect the text on the DOM element, and you can use that. So how DevTools will go through each of these is that if we try to, when we come to this step, we'll try to find from the selector number 1. If we cannot locate it, then we'll go to number 2, number 3, number 4, and number 5. So we'll go through it with a sequence. So this make your test more reliable, because we'll find like different type of selector in order to select that. So this selector is not fixed. You can also customize that. For example, if you do not want the XPath selector and the text selector, what you can do is when you're creating a new recording, you can mention that you only want the CSS selector and the ARIA selector, for example. And in the selector attribute, what you can do here is that you can tell DevTools what are the selector that you prefer. If we can detect it, for example, like in this cup element, there are a few selector. Like even the CSS selector, we have data-cy and data-test and ARIA label. So in this case, DevTools will take data-test because it's the first selector that we can detect. But let's say data-cy is the selector that you preferred. What you can tell DevTools is that, go back to the recorder, you can say that you want to take if we can find data-cy selector, please use it as the default selector. So when you start recording and click on the coffee and you stop it, what you can see here is instead of taking data-test, we are using data-cy now, because this is your preference. And if you don't like it, you can change it back to data-test, for example. So this make it easier for you to switch the type. And continue with that. Just now, Titus shared about the replay button in DevTools, which you can replay your user flow straight away in SourceLab. However, if you have multiple JSON file that you download and you probably save it in your GitHub repo and you want to replay it everything together and manage it in your GitHub repo, what you can do is that you can use the SourceCTL in order to do so. So for example, you can have a config file in your project and set the API version, set the kind to Puppeteer replay, and list down all your recording under the suits. So for example, here I have like recording /userflow-json. You can have multiple recording here in the multiple suit and multiple recording here in the array. And then once you install SourceCTL and you configure it, you can run SourceCTL to run and execute all the recording JSON file that you save in your that you have. So it's very convenient. Another thing I want to say is that you can build your own extensions and plugin. So for example, if you go to this link, I have a few examples to show you how you can extend the recorder to fulfill your more complex test cases. So for example, this is one of the extension that I built. So in order to build an extension, you can extend the Puppeteer replay extension library, which is part of the Puppeteer replay library. So once you install that, you can extend it. And in this case, we provide a few hooks that you can hook in to say that, for example, after each of the step, what you want to do, and after all the step, what you want to do. There are hooks for before each of the step and before all the step as well. So in this case, what I want to do is that after each of the step, I want to be able to take a screenshot and save it to the screenshot folder. And after all the step, I want to console.log and say that the operation is complete. You can do there are various use cases for you to do that. So in this example, once you created that, what you can do is that you can use the Puppeteer replay library to run the replay command, pass in the extension that we just built just now, and pass in the recording file that you want. So in this case, we also accept not just one recording. You can pass in multiple JSON file, more than one. Here we have 3 files here, 3 JSON file here, and I pass in all. So once I execute, you should be able to see that in the screenshot folder, there will be a screenshot that is taken here. So let me just execute that. And it will, while you are running, it will show you a summary of the status of all the files that you are running. So you can see that all the for each of the step will capture a screenshot. So this is the extension that you create. You can also create extension for all the other use cases that you have. Yep. Okay. So that's all from me.
I have a question.
Yes.
Can you change the order of the selectors?
Okay. Changing the order of the selector is not possible. So when you create a selector, if you want to change the sequence, what you can do is that, for example, in here you can have I might have data. You can manually change it like data CY, or you can put like data CY first and data test is the next. However, when we detect that, so when you create a new recording, when you detect that, we will always follow the sequence here. Yeah. Or just one selector attribute to override the others.
So another thing, I noticed that the recorder doesn't typically use class
Mm-hmm.
names
Mm-hmm.
unless you put it in the selector attribute. Like you could put class selector attribute to get that. Does it prefer the what you put in the selector attribute in the order? Is that at the top of the things that it does? But it'll still show other items, right?
Yeah. So we have a preference on certain selector. So for the for some CSS selector, the common test selector is what we prefer first. So if you have like data test ID, data test, data QA, data CY, like this selector, we will always use that as the preferred CSS selector. If we do not detect that, then we'll use the ID selector and the CSS class selector. I can show you the, okay, let me just add a new step before. And if we click on the, not here. Okay, maybe in the card. So I left some element here that I do not have an ID or stuff, just to show you. So if you click on this, like this button doesn't have any of the selectors. So the selector that we will pick is the class. And then, yeah, this is the unique selector that we detect for this particular button if we do not assign any of the selector.
All right, thanks everyone. Does anyone have any questions? Anything else we can answer for you? All right, well, both of us are pretty available online at all of the places. Not very hard to find if you want to reach out and ask more questions. We've got a question. Does this work on all web apps, say Angular, React, JS? Yes. So HTML is a standard, which is one of the great things about having standards is it all works the same way. And so all of the tools that work with HTML like Selenium or Puppeteer or any of these other tools, they're working with a standard interface. So it's straightforward for these things to work regardless of what it is that's generating that HTML. A good question. We get that a lot on the Selenium team is, does this work with X or Y? It's like, if it's in the browser, it'll work with it. WebGL. Are you familiar with WebGL?
So for the, and am I mute and I'm mute? Okay. Oh, so for the, muted. Okay.
Could you hear me? I was muted.
Yeah. So for the WebGL and for the canvas, currently we do not support canvas. So for example, like some of your action when you want to zoom in, zoom out, or you have like canvas like drawing, we are not able to, we are not supporting like to recording those steps yet. Yeah. So no for WebGL.
Did you want to show the assertions or talk anything more about assertions on the recordings?
Yeah. Okay, I can share my screen. So for our demo just now, maybe the first one, we have added a step for the assertion. Like for example, in this example, what I want to assert is that there is this nice coffee on the screen. So this is one of the type of assertion that we can use, which is wait for element. So you can wait for the you can add a count attribute and edit a number, and you can also add operator as well. So do you want it to be more or equal to 9, or you want it to be like equal to 9, or you want it to be less than 9, for example? So you can do that. This is the first type of assertion. The second type of assertion is that you can add assert by the attribute. So you so wherever thing that show up in the elements panel, for let's click on here, like all these class aria label, data test, data CY, like all these are attribute. So what you can do is you can also add an assertion on if the aria label is espresso campana, for example. So you can go back to the recorder and say that I want to this aria label, the value should be espresso campana, for example. So this is another type of assertion that you can put in. You can assert by the attribute, or you can assert by the properties as well. Property means that anything that you can. So one of the popular properties that people usually use are inner text, because you want to check the inner text of the DOM element. One of the way that is make it easier for you to find out what are the properties that you can use is using the console in DevTools. In this case, let's say I use this, let me right click and store this as a global variable, because that makes things easier for me. So this temp1 global variable, when I click a dot, like all these are considered as properties. So if I want to put, like, I want to check the inner text. So the inner text would be espresso space whipped cream. So in this case, I can put, like, I want to have a property inner text that is equal to this espresso whipped cream. What I can do is that in the step, I can add a property, set the inner text, and I pass in the text value that I want to assert. So you can also, any properties will work, but this is just one of the example that it can work. Another type of assertion that you can do is the wait for expression. So in this case, if you have some variable, if you have some expression, JavaScript expression that you want to assert, you can do that. For example, you can check, you want to compare the number of two objects, then you can have like variable 1, if there is, more than variable 2, for example. So you can pass in any JavaScript expression as long as it's valid, then it will detect and run this as the assertion expression. Yeah. So there's these few types of assertion that you can do in Recorder. Did I answer your question? I guess so.
About how can we have access to the Source Labs for learning, so we can do a POC.
Yeah, so as far as getting access to Sauce Labs, you can create an account and do some work, or you can email us and we can get you the information that you need to get up and going, especially if you're looking to do it as a proof of concept or proof of value for your company. We'd love to help you out with that. So feel free to reach out to me or anyone at Sauce Labs, and we can get you set up. Any more questions? All right. Well, thank you everyone for this fun mix of in-person and online. The tool, so the recorder is already built in, and the extension that I showed is, did we put the link on the? Okay. So yeah, so there's it's the Sauce replay extension in Chrome. Please download that and take a look. And we've got a few ideas for how we might improve that coming up. So it's exciting space. So there we go. That got logged there. So anyway, thank you everyone for showing up. Good to see people both in person here in Berlin and get such a great response from everyone online there. So thank you very much. Thank you, Jesslyn, for joining us here in Berlin. Thank you very much.
See you.
Bye.